Creative Boutique Shop, Creative Boutique Show, live by Filingo Media. It was almost about 3 or 4 hours of discussion with Mr. Anish, and we're talking about how localizing help any brands to actually thrive, especially when the brand is not doing good, right? And he was stating that because people were adapting or standardizing their product or services so much, especially in hospitality industry. Like let's say cafe, restaurants, they're trying to make it so standard that people are afraid to go inside. And the solution or solutions in a branding perspective would be to make localize that particular brand and bring it into a local community, because you can't just target expats, a very few number of people, and depend on those targets or crowds and sustain yourself for coming years. So the solution would be to localize it in a fashion where you don't diminish the standardization of the quality of your product. At the same time, you give people so much confidence to come inside your and test and experience the kind of expertise or the knowledge you have regarding your product and service. What is that? You want people to know that, right? And the best thing would be to localize it. And before localizing a brand, all the brands cannot be localizing in a way that just because localizing actually helps, because the number one important thing for every single brand is to differentiate among its own category, its own industry, because there's not one coffee shop, there's a lot of coffee shop, but every single coffee shop has that individuality, has its own different essence. It could be the environment, it could be like whether it could be a sports cafe bar, or it could be like family cafe thing, right? There's so many ways to differentiate and add a value in a particular product or service and differentiate you as a brand. So localizing your brand is one of that brand, because you cannot wish or hope to serve millions of people or thousands of people, and unless you successfully serve one person, two person, three person, right? So it's very important for every single brand to be very targeted when it comes to understanding the consumer, the persons who you are serving your services or selling your products. And then what it comes to is because in the end, whether your brand or product is good, your company is good or not, it all depends on the final measurement, the instrument of gauging, and whether your business is totally branded or not would be whether you're able to do business successfully or not, whether people come into your space or not, right? And because what we can clearly see right now is there are so many cafe shops, they have been standardized as if it's that international kind of. So people can still have that kind of atmosphere, that same level of service, the same way of letting people feel how sophisticated and premium they are. But they could also add a little bit of flavor, local flavor, and turn it and mix it, infuse it in a way that and encourage local people to come in and try it. And that's I think is very important. This is exactly what happened in Pokhara, because a lot of people expected that they're actually targeting a lot of foreigners to come up there and experience the adventurous activities over there. Whatever it is, like bungee, sky jeep, what it is, the paragliding. But later on, what happened was when foreigners stopped coming in, but the economy of the travel economy was still flourishing, and the reason was because so many local people were there, man. It was a lot of local people were attending and sustaining that industry, travel industry, and it was a sign that it is so important, and not just to look at a specific set of targets, but also localize it in a fashion where you're not stopping the foreigners, at the same time you're not stopping the local people, right? You're talking about just because you are thinking about coming up with the various and very, like thinking about making it very allied, only targeting, like very, people that has a higher social status. I mean, doesn't mean that your business is going to sustain for a long. Because the number one thing people should not avoid or should never forget at all is and staying relevant with the culture, and that would be staying relevant with the context. Business owners should be so open, with the and adapt the cultural phenomenon that's happening right now and then, because like this usually people have this a delusional kind of thinking, especially when they try to start a brand, because the kind of assumptions that we have about branding is we look up to those big brands and we try to think in a similar linear fashion, but that is not how it works, especially when you have a different product and a brand in different category in a different space. Say your business is in Kathmandu city, right? So you cannot be like victim of that fallacy or of what branding supposed to be, a brand supposed to mean, that must be written in a book, or you must have learned a long time back in a MBA classes. But here what you have to really understand is what's going on in your scenario, and how do we adapt, how do we make the like gain the or capitalize the awareness about the local culture, the local lifestyle, the local fashions, and bring those local people in. So, what I was stating very clearly was that this could be one of the strategy into the branding, because localizing, like if we start localizing everything, that might not help, right? Because like the people have a tendency to change their mind, and since every single product and companies are competing so much in the same space or even in a different space, because ultimately what we're people actually fighting for is for the revenues, for the and revenue, the money is like the only thing that is used to exchange all kind of type of services here. Now, so the competition is very, very it's a very cutthroat competitions, and that's the reason why the first purpose of every single branding has to be a differentiation, and make it so independent, at the same time individual brand, and at the same time be clear about who is your primary target audience, and that would appreciate why you exist as a brand in their mind, in their heart, right? That is most important. So another thing, the most important thing is to be very realist. If your business is not doing good, what you thought it would like shape or like make your business thrive, but if it's not happening, you need to start adapting different strategy, and it would be localizing. If you have standardized your business so much and can give it such a big hive only in terms of packaging, and it's then like there comes a time to really change your strategy. Like if you really have a foolproof that your product actually has that big standard, you're not just packaging it, but you're actually good at the core itself, because there are products as such that go through some kind of proven method, and you get that stamp, that thing, and it's which you can actually brag about how good of a product you have. And then you have to like keep capitalizing on that standard, because like people, every single people has to differentiate in a way that it is capitalizing on its strength, not just packaging it with and making it look like a balloon full of air, because it's gonna go away, because market actually penetrates like shit. And I know the goods inside that we talked about was regarding and whether the company order should react on market's expectations, or they got to create their own market. This is another whole scope of debate, but when it comes to brandings, what we're really focusing on was this is a place where people have to be very, very realist. That means people are in every single company is in different position in terms of branding itself, or like sustaining itself, or like thriving itself, or like just to survive, or like just to even reach the break-even point, right? the brand is in different position, and according to that position, it has a different objective, different outcome. So based on that objective and outcome, people actually come up with a strategy, right? And so, like, the thing that we are talking about here might not work to your company, because your company might be experiencing different kind of situation right now, depending on the kind of position you are in the marketplace, right? So the better thing would be to be aware about the strength that you have, and differentiate and make the best and capitalize that on that strength, and differentiate yourself in the marketplace, and then look for those loyal customer base, who very much encourage you to improve your product, service, whatever that you do, to exchange with them, and be in the marketplace for the long run. Because, like, first, every single company has to do is, for 3 or 4 windows period of time, they have to just sustain there. They have to be there, just to understand that industry. So if companies not doing, like, if companies cannot sustain for 3 or 4 years, the company might not have built that the muscles to come up with correctly, accurately assess the market scenario, market situations, and make the best out of that. For that to happen, and for any product to turn into a brand, sustaining that for 3 or 4 years is very, very important. And that is the minimum of the timeline that every single product or services has to think about. After that, depending on your situations, you can come up with a strategy, right? So right now, our point was that there are still so many companies that can actually start thriving, and localizing its product. Because one example I would like to give you, and we were discussing on that idea, and it was the app. Right now, every single cafe have a web app, or like app of itself, or the menu that it has, where, like, consumers get to see that. And when it comes to localizing it, making the communication very clear to the people. I'll just give you a very best analogy, right? These particular talk show or creative boutique shop, whatever I'm doing, wish it were in Nepali, right? And wish, I was able to touch a lot of people, so many people with, this is a very realistic and accurate assessment of what I'm actually talking about the product, So this all depends on the kind of outcome you're looking for, right? And see what is that you want, and depending on that, you have to come up with the strategy. And localizing definitely means that, and you do not have to diminish the importance of standardizations that you have seen out there in the different countries, because you're copying the same model, right? You don't have to diminish that. That's a significant core thing. But also, but what I'm trying to suggest to you, saying localizing is actually adding a more value, and making it familiar with the people who have never thought would come and taste your thing, right? And because local people are the one, man. It's your business is in local market. So anytime there is, like, situations where it is too much, and that is the time when you have to re-innovate things. And it's for those innovative and the people who has a vision about running that kind of company can actually take advantage of that saturated place, because every people think in a similar fashion, similar way. It just, in order for you, because localizing right now would be a good thing. So very few companies are able to do that, and able to capitalize on this thing. So to name this, Ekadesma International Film Festival is one of that. They're very concerned about their branding and still remaining local at its core, at the same times not forgetting how international impact it can generate among all the filmmakers. Because when it comes to brand, you should not forget why you're there, why you are in the existence, in the minds, in the hearts of people. And as long as you don't forget that, you're always there as a brand with a vision, brand that has made a significant difference in people's life, and people are able to experience that things in one-on-one basis, and people will never forget it. So another brand would be, there's a lot of Nepalese brand coming up, and it's a great deal actually, localizing things, and I hope you guys have understood like how localizing brand helps any dying business thrive. I've seen it, this is what I've been advocating to people. Like, when it's the situations where you have to be very, very critical, and it's very vital to assess and to look, to what is the scenario of your business, in which market you are existing right now. At the same time, some more important thing would be, what are you going to do about that, right? And one of the strategy would be to localize it in a very subtle fashion, and so that you just don't depend on the few numbers, few set of people, like one set of targets, because everybody's trying to open up this fancy restaurant, fancy cafe, and trying to target this expats, this the NGO goers, Kathmandutis, and Kathmandutis would be like good idea. That would be localized. If you feel like there's some ideas or insights that you would like to share with us, I'll be very glad to take your insights, or you can comment it right now. You can pretty much type a timeline, and over there you can comment this thing. And you're also welcome to join this podcast anytime. This is Creative Boutique Shop by Filingo Media. It's been organized by Filingo Media. Without Filingo Media, this show would not be in existence right now, and I wouldn't be doing this, right? So, guys, thank you so much. One of the thing about Filingo Media is to let people know more about advertising, branding, communication, drink marketing, not just in an enterprising level, but also in individual. Because ultimately, the business are run by people, right? Individual level, because to make people aware and understand about its impact as well as its consequences, because advertising has consequences. At the same time, it has impacts. It has an ability to change people's life in a very positive way. At the same time, if people are not aware, there's a vicious bombarding in this industry. One has to understand it in a very personal level. So guys, my concern is to let people know about this thing. So guys, thank you so much. Tomorrow is going to be better than this one. So we'll come up with a different insight, and want to help you grow your business. So that's one of the outcome that would like to see from a Filingo Media and our Creative Boutique Shop as well. So guys, thank you so much. Bye bye. Creative Boutique Shop, Creative Boutique Show, live by Filingo Media.